Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey, podcast listeners, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with Brenda Puckett, president of West-Lite Supply. West-Lite Supply is a lighting distributor based in Northern California. As you will hear from our conversation, the lighting industry went from a fairly static commodity business to this dynamically changing industry in the last decade. Keeping up with innovative design may be a logistical nightmare, but it's also a whole lot of fun. I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you will too. This episode of Distribution Talk is brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team, and our upcoming seminar, Turning Branch Managers into Business Managers. Too often, branch managers are given the title, but not the instruction manual. In this seminar, we give managers and those ready to take on the role the tools they need to be successful. It's being held November 14th through 15th in one of my favorite cities, Atlanta, Georgia. Over the course of 2 days, we cover the fundamentals of profitability, customer service, inventory management, safety, preventative maintenance, delegation and empowerment, recruiting and development, effective communication, and so much more. We guarantee that this course will give participants the confidence to come back and tackle the job. For more information and registration details, visit us at distributionteam.com/training. All right, Brenda. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on Distribution Talk. It's always a pleasure to hear your voice.
You too, Jason. Thank you. It's an honor to be asked.
Well, fantastic. So on Distribution Talk, I love to take people back to the very beginning. Why did you get involved in distribution? How did you get involved? And why do you stay? I think that's also a big part of that.
Well, like some of the other people that have come in through their family, that was how I entered this business. And I kind of went the same path of not wanting to be in the family business. So did a few other things. My parents actually bought and acquired and started the business right when I graduated high school. So I went to college for a little bit. I was kind of interacting with them, of course, but then I went back up into the Bay Area and got a job with the New York Times. I did marketing and production and distribution in a sense. I had the 13 Western states. So I really enjoyed that position. I really didn't want to go back down to Los Angeles. At that time, we were only in Los Angeles. So they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. and I went and helped open up our Hayward branch out of San Francisco. And I kept thinking I was going to get out of it. I really just started enjoying it more. And I liked being in the sales side of it, that something that somebody needs. I wasn't pushing something somebody didn't need. So then it became into solutions and helping them and all of that. 38 years later.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Trust me, it took a lot to get me out of my family business. Now, they are probably thrilled and better off for it. But yeah, it's kind of a hard decision to bail out after you've been around that for so long. Now, prior to you going to work with the New York Times, now, did you, spend a little extra time, working in the warehouse or do those types of things in the organization?
No, I would do more of accounting and those type of things. I was actually in college taking business and accounting classes. And then I was kind of getting frustrated taking accounting classes and then coming to help my parents and seeing how they were realistically doing it. They were a small business and a lot of that big stuff just didn't apply. It just didn't drill down that way. And then marketing has always been a passion of mine. So that was the nice part about going up into the New York Times. When I did come back, I did a lot of office work for West-Lite and had to do a little bit of everything, right? There were times we had to unload trucks or go out in the warehouse or do whatever was needed. And as we grew, I was able to then really focus on just marketing and national accounts at a time.
How many years were you away from the company with the New York Times?
Only about 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So I really wasn't involved in the beginning, just a little bit of helping them name it and coming in and doing a little things in college, but never really a full time till after I came back from the New York Times.
I often speak with second generation business owners, and we talk a lot about that importance of leaving that family business for a little while and then coming back. And I'm often asked, a lot of folks as their kids are coming up in the business, should I send them away? Is it valuable to send them away? What do you think you pulled back from that experience, or did you pull anything back to the family business?
Oh, absolutely. If I would have had a longer period away, I think it would be even
Hmm.
more beneficial. My oldest son actually graduated college and came looking for a job in the family business. And at that time, I
Oh,
had a sales manager, and I said, interview him, ignore his last name and interview him. And if you choose to hire him, go ahead. The whole time I'm thinking, please don't, please don't, please don't.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
I've told him this story since then.
Sure.
And it was the best thing for him because
Yeah.
he went on to work for companies. Now he's with a startup and he's in charge of their whole sales department. And I couldn't get him back probably if I wanted to, but
Oh,
it,
so
it
he didn't,
really,
he
I think,
decided not to come back.
no, he never came. He did a little bit of
Oh, he never,
IT work for us, but when he
okay.
graduated college, yeah, my sales manager did not hire him.
Wow,
And
that is pretty bold.
I just think too, at the end of the day, I wanted him to earn it because it's hard
Right.
coming in
Sure.
as a family person. And I really wanted him to
Oh, I get it.
prove himself. And if he was ready for the challenge, he was ready. But I kind of felt that experience too, because that's how I kind of came in. And I was hoping he'd go work for one or two and then come back, but he just kept bypassing the ladder and climbing so fast. I didn't have the opportunity to get him back, but he's very happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I remember my first bosses in the organization. I looking back, I'm thinking, oh my God, what an impossible task. What a horrible situation to be put in, to be managing or overseeing the boss's kid. And I'm still very good friends with them today, fortunately. But really, that's a tough task. Kudos to to your sales manager for having, I guess, that faith in what you said was real, that ignore the last name and
Yeah.
interview them. And he didn't hire him. That actually is kind of
Yeah.
shocking. You don't usually see that happen.
I
So,
know, I know. And maybe that was just, I had worked for a family business before the New York Times. I was in the car industry and
okay.
they had a lot of the family members in there. And so I
Yeah,
saw some of that, but I just really, I always believe too, and I don't put a title on my emails. It's great to have a different last name. And I just really believe
sure.
you have to earn it. And my parents made me work hard for it too.
It's interesting. I interviewed a gentleman several weeks ago, and I've known him for years. But I think we counted 12 family members currently working in the organization right now.
Oh
And
yeah.
I thought, oh my God, my brother and I couldn't handle each other. That's what, honestly, I mean,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
yeah,
We had quite a few. And I think for me, being at the time I was in my early 20s, that was probably part of my feeling about not working for the family because
yeah,
I was living at home and my mom and dad were working there, and my sister and my brother, both my brothers. And it was like, oh, I just want to be out on my own. But yeah, and then the caveat to that funny story about not hiring my son is I
yeah.
actually ended up hiring his wife, my daughter in law.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, much
Oh,
later,
wow.
and then she's moved on now. But
Okay.
yes, too funny.
Oh, that is funny. I mean, I found that unfortunately, family dinners and things like that, all those things, that's all we
Oh yeah.
talked about was the company. And fortunately, now we have so many other things to talk about. So, switching gears here a little bit, you've been in the business now around the NAILD or NAILD business for so long. What are some of the big turning points in that organization and big changes in that industry?
Well, there's been a ton in our industry, but as you know, in distribution, just in itself, and I don't know if
Right.
you've read like Facing the Forces of Change, right?
I did. It was interesting. I heard you had mentioned that in another conversation, but it's funny. It was almost like a standing book report. It was kind of funny. I got hired in by this software broker or distributor, and they asked me to summarize Facing the Forces of Change to their audience. So I'm very familiar with that. Yeah.
And I think even if you go broader than that, think
Yeah.
about it. Every business has to change. I mean,
Sure.
it's rare that you can just stay as you are and not change, whether it's updating your product line, whether it's updating your location, whether it's going into more of an online presence. You have to consistently change. And I think
Right.
that is the one ringing true thing that has gotten more and more. You think about it now, we all update our iPhones or our Androids
Sure.
so often. Nobody wants to keep the old one. And we are in a society of replacement, not repair. or let's upgrade to the next greatest and latest thing, or
Mm-hmm.
hey, there's a new restaurant, or hey, there's a new store, or whatever is new and exciting, we're all after it. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is just trying to stay on that wave or curve of making sure that we're offering that to our customers and what's going to keep them with us for the longevity that they have been.
Yeah, I mean, in the lighting industry, I remember when I first met you all, I was introduced to the organization, and I walked the small trade show and things like that. And there was still compact fluorescent, and there was a couple LED starting to play, and there was really quite the mishmash of different products out there. And I mean, that's got to be horribly confusing and difficult to manage, to go through.
It is. I say all the times, I wish the manufacturers would make less lamps and fixtures
Yeah,
and choices, in a sense, because we do have a lot of repetitive things in the marketplace that can be used for the same. And now we're not even in the lighting business. I tell all my customers and my reps and my sales reps that we're in electronics now. Think about it. LED,
absolutely.
it's electronics. The fixtures are that way. We're controlling these things with our phones. We're controlling the colors of them. We're controlling how they work, how we interact with them. So what we used to be in a business of traditional light sources is now electronics. But it still is a little bit of a commodity, but
Yeah.
it still is kind of what Nailed is about, that specialized lighting distributor, right?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
you have to have some expertise in these new systems. Yeah, it's just getting more focused, that you really have to know what you're doing, and looking for a specialist to help you do that.
That's really a great point. I'm starting to think about the different color choices and things that you can do with your phone to change the colors. And I think there's a great deal of different opportunities for creativity. And I think that's really changed your industry quite a bit. I mean, before I think it was more of a design, a look and feel of the fixture or something of that, but the bulb itself was not too innovative. And now today it's completely different. Now that bulb is just that light source is so innovative, and you can change it to so many different things.
Correct. Yeah, we're just selling a lot less units. Before we
Right.
would just sell cases and cases upon, and pallets of the same thing. And nowadays it's just gone into a whole different specialized.
Sadly, I think a few of your cohorts out there still have cases and cases of the same darn thing sitting there and praying that somebody's going to take it off their hands.
It's true. It's true. We just did inventory, and it's so funny how the timing of our inventory has gotten less and less, because it really is about specialized products. So it's not like we're carrying cases upon cases of just stuff that's going to be outdated.
Interesting. I think that really does change the nature of you as a distributor to be, even though we do talk about service and we talk about that value added we add to products, but now it becomes more consultative. I would say that sounds to me like the direction you all are going.
It's a little bit of both. So we definitely have to keep some things on our shelves, and some of the commodity items
Mhm.
and things for contractors and even our best customers, that they might need something, right? Because something went out. But it is more of that. And you see it even in manufacturers. Everything
Mhm.
now is a 4 to 6 week lead time in some of these other products, because they're not even building for stock. They're not inventorying these items because, number one, the industry is changing so fast. So as soon as you invent or put out this one product, a couple months later, they've innovated it to an even better product. That's slowing down
Right.
a little bit, but now it's just the features of it, I think, a little bit more. So they've kind of gotten to a plateau on I don't want to say a plateau because they're still going, but it's definitely evened out a little bit. And now it's just like, okay, how do we control it? How do we change the
Right.
colors? Before you would, like you said, order a lamp or a fixture in a certain color, and then that was it. Now they're making them where they actually even have a switch on them, and you can change that color. You could have it warmer, or you could have it cooler,
Right.
and you only have to have one fixture. So the options of what you can do with it are getting far more intense, which I think will be interesting, because then will it go back to a commodity product? Because you won't have to specialize order every single thing. This one thing will do what you're looking for.
I can definitely see that product might start to move towards that commoditization, but I think there's also continual innovation so that driving down that cost of production as well. I think there's going to be a little bit, it won't be as simple as the bulb itself, as you saw in the past, I think. But I do see a greater reliance on that advice side, the distributor advice side, and that technical expertise and those types of things. I mean, I think there's where the diversification occurs in you as a distributor.
Yeah. And that's what I hear from our customers. That's really what we offer them. That's what I teach my salespeople. Don't go in looking for an order. Don't go in wondering what they need. You have to go in and educate them and show them and give them the options of really the consultative sale. And we hear that feedback from them. Yeah, I never hear from this person or our competitors, and that's the thing that kind of makes me most proud, because we're out there competing with some of the big horses in our industry, like the Grangers, the CEDs, the Edges, all that sort of thing. But we build that relationship a little bit more. I know they're doing a lot more in volume, but we're getting some big size projects and doing some of that work. So it makes a big difference.
Speaking of that, how does that change the, when you're recruiting for salespeople, or if you're with your training salespeople, how does that, now this shift to being, again, more consultative, and listening more with the customer, I guess, how have you adapted to that with your sales team?
The toughest part is finding somebody that has a little bit of experience, right?
Right.
And so that's always the first thing you're going after, but it's hard to find in our industry. So the next part is, do they have the willingness to want to get out there and help a customer? And can they multitask? Because it's not about just going to see a customer. It's about doing your research on LinkedIn. It's about doing your research on Google Earth, pre-qualifying it. So lots of those things. And I think even just recruiting in our industry, it's not where the people are coming out of college and go, and we've talked about this even in podcasts, I want to go into lighting, if you talk to lighting people.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I was just at a trade show, and I am seeing more of the younger crowds as I was going through the booths, and they're telling me they were more on a kind of engineering side or electronic side. So that is kind of coming into our industry, which I think will be great for some of the new blood coming in, and that as we get more app focused and all these type of fun things with controls and color and things that they can do for environments, I think that's going to help invite people and get them excited about our industry.
Oh, I would agree. I think you just hit it right there, that it's with the app generated side, it's just fun. It's exciting. And that's been the biggest challenge in distribution in general, in attracting younger people, is that, distributors can't figure out enough fun things to do. We just can't figure out enough innovative things to do and enough ways to keep a younger generation, interested, for lack of a better term.
And engaged, right? So
right.
Yeah, I think the good part about our industry, if I look at it, it's not like just a light bulb anymore. Now like we said, they've got their phones, they can mess around with it, or, I've got this customer and they want me to light up the building for the local sports team because they won the championship, and they get behind all of that.
The more I'm thinking through some of this, I was like, wow, this is pretty fascinating. And that's something that'll keep your industry fresh and interesting. I mean, that's just these changes. Boy, and some of the other industries or the vertical markets that I do business in and I work with, they're struggling. They don't have that type of option. So no, that's pretty amazing. And I hope you all capitalize on that and run with that.
We're trying. We definitely are. We just made some new hires and I'm pretty excited about them. So we're definitely going to see how they pan out. So,
well, that's good. Real quickly, if I could change direction here. One of the things you and I had talked about just a little bit was something that occurs in the manufacturer or the relationship when you were selling, probably be a larger project, but something called a special pricing agreement, or a SPA. Could you explain that for those of us in distribution that have never had to deal with something like this?
Oh my goodness. All right. So it is. It's a special pricing authorization or agreement. And it's usually, and I don't know, and you may be able to touch on this a little bit more in other industries, but it's either about if you have a large project or if there's a large bid for a project, there will be a special pricing agreement that the manufacturers will give out to those distributors that have requested it or on the bid list. Now, and with that as well, there's also just general ones for specific customers, like some of the property management companies that we deal with, like Colliers or JLL or CBRE. They will have a special pricing agreement in effect for distributors with certain manufacturers so that they'll get, basically it's a better cost than our into stock cost. So then we can extend a better sell price to our larger users based on the volume. And that's usually what it is. It's usually based on much larger users or a much larger job. And it's been the nemesis, as I think we talked about too, because it's just been a nightmare for a lot of distributors to handle in our industry. When they first came out, I was telling you, they used to say, okay, one is going to be off this yearbook, that yearbook, and you would have to keep like 5 different years of books. They finally got smart and did away with that and just changed the percentages. But it still could be a pain because I would say even in our company, we probably have currently over 50 to 100 spas in effect.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah. But technology has helped, and the computer system and EDI has helped that tremendously and just managing it. But it means a lot to the bottom line too. And it means a lot to being competitive out there in the marketplace.
Sure.
I think the manufacturers, as I was saying to you, the good part is that we're seeing them make it a little bit more of a level playing field in some respects, or giving you more options to not make it so cumbersome, where they'll do kind of a market level pricing and put that out there for distributors. But it definitely is always a challenge to manage, but it means a lot to the bottom line if you do it well.
Well, it certainly does. And that was the thing that when it was described to me at first, and that you have a much better explanation about this than I was given, but it was explained to me that, well, yeah, let's see, we buy this bulb for $1. And with these special customers, well, we sell it for 80 cents. And, I'm like, okay, well, the math's not working out yet. So help me out here. Well, then we put in for this sale, we put in some sort of adjustment
Claim
for
back.
this.
Yep.
Right. And they'll give us 40 cents back so we can make a little bit of 20 cents on this deal. But if we forget to turn in our paperwork or our order, then we don't get anything. And we just lost 20 cents on that deal. I thought, oh my God, this is horrid.
It's a rebate. It's like a rebate, right? Or we call them claim back. So
claim back. Okay.
Yeah. You're claiming back against that spa or that customer for those items. And it gets very particular because it's not like every item. So it's only particular items for that customer. So you really do have to have a good software in place.
You do. And I think that there are a few of them that have really embraced this and understood this situation. Some of the better software packages, I would imagine, out there that do really understand this. So
yes, we have one person kind of dedicated to it. So it is a big tasking job.
I have heard horror stories about people having 3 or 4 people on staff to chase this stuff down. Yeah. And I just, the labor associated, I just, even though you're pulling that money back, I don't think you're breaking even on this deal. I really don't.
I do have another family member in the business. So it's my nephew who does all of this. Yeah, but he does a great job. My nephew does a great job at just putting together pivot tables and working out all the pricing and the most advantageous thing to use and work with the manufacturers.
Oh, that's good, because it just sounds to me like that is so many different agreements to juggle and make sure that are current. And I would imagine those change quite a bit. I mean, on a regular basis, as you all go out and attract new business and you're looking at different opportunities, that those are very dynamic agreements.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's keeping up with that and making sure when they do expire, then updating your customers' pricing and how has it changed, right? There is definitely a big openness there to have a lot of errors and lose a lot of money if you don't do it right.
Yeah. To me, I mean, I think about that whole activity and I'm asking the question, where does that provide value to the chain? And I'm not sure if I can pinpoint on where that does provide value.
And I guess it's a little biased, right? So it's a matter of, at the end of the day, they can provide, it's the manufacturers trying to go after this chunk of business based on volume. So they're trying to give the best price out there to get this chunk of business. And then it's up to each distributor what kind of markup they're going to put on it. Now, they do have agreements that have a designated markup. So they have agreements that have a cost and a sell, and you can't deviate from that. And so those are nice, but they're not at the margins where most of us distributors would want them to be.
Right. It's a little limiting, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part to, choose which ones work and to have a mixture of everything, right? Because again, you can't put everything all in one basket. I think it's good to be diversified in anything.
Yeah, I just have kind of this visceral contrarian attitude about it. Like, what do you mean you're going to tell me how much I get to sell that for? And I get very,
Oh, we do too. We do too. But in the same sense, it also protects us in pricing and costing. So if we are going after a big bid, and a lot of times we have to sign an agreement and say, yes, we're only going to bid yours because we're one of the few distributors across the U.S. that have all three direct relationships. Like when I say all three, like Philips, GE, and Sylvania or Leadvance.
Sure.
So it also is a protection for them that they will only release that price to certain distributors, and they really have to agree to honor that. And if they don't, they'll pull some of that other pricing or opportunities away from the future.
Yeah, with three of them, you're constantly, if one of them starts pulling some shenanigans, then obviously you divert your bids or your conversations to the other two, or even to one in particular. So it is kind of a nice checks and balance between the three of them, it sounds like.
Yes, but it's also tough to keep them all three happy too. It's like dating three girls at one time, or three guys, right? So
yeah. But at this point in my life, just not gonna help me at all. Yeah, that just doesn't.
No. And I think that's where I've gotten really specific about it. And I think with my manufacturers, and that's been my family's whole thing. We're pretty upfront and straightforward with things, and it really is about a partnership. So I really do try to partner with them. And these are relationships. So it's not a lot of BS. And how can I bring their product to market and in my marketplaces and do a good job for them?
Right. I grew up, in the 31 flavors of safety glasses, so I'm familiar with, these relationships of many, and it's hard to balance for sure. And, you try to chase the sales goal, the end game year-end rebate goal on one, and you're going to have to tank one of the other ones. And there's a lot of juggling associated with that. Before I let you go, how did you, as a West Coast-based company, wind up with a Cincinnati and Lexington? How did that happen?
Well, my family is originally from Cincinnati.
Okay.
Both my mom and dad. So that's kind of really happened. My dad was the West Coast regional manager, but he started back east. So they were going to transfer him back east. He didn't want to do that. So he started in California. So we started in 81 in Southern California, expanded to San Francisco in 84. And he had actually set up his brother in a distribution business like ours back in Ohio. So it came about that, it just wasn't working out for him. So we acquired that. And Kentucky was a very similar thing. It was a gentleman that he helped get set up in the distribution business, and we acquired that one from them when they decided to move on. And there was another one in Florida at one time that we had, and it was same.
Oh, wow.
So there's probably, there was over about 20 or 25 distributors across the U.S. and some that are still around that my dad helped get started in the business.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And it helped with our national chains, and it still does when we're doing things across the country to have those different distribution points.
Yeah, I just, now the two markets, incredibly different between the two.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? If you're trying to create a marketing system for your organization in general, there's a little bit of difference between the two sides here.
Oh, absolutely. As I tease, they're still burning coal back east. And, in California, we're afraid to put anything in the garbage, which is good.
Right.
So it's a whole different mindset. And I'm very lucky to have some local people back there that you have to approach them different. And even Southern California and Northern California are a little bit different just in how they operate. But
absolutely.
Regional areas are just different. But you're talking about two different horses there from the East Coast to the West Coast. So we just try to really focus on what the strengths are of that area, what the needs are of that area, and go after that.
What advice would you have for someone wanting to get into the business, or just tell them to run and don't do anything with this? Just do not even get involved? Or what would you say to the young people wanting to get involved with this?
Well, I think it is going to be exciting. I think it's going to go right after what they're interested in, between, like I said, electronics and their phone and environments, right? Because the young people are all about experiences. And lighting really is turned into an experience rather than a commodity. So I think if you are interested, lighting is looking for people. And I would say,
Right.
ask somebody. Sometimes when I do a hire, I tell them, come right along with me for a day. I want to see if it interests you. So I would say, ask that you could do that or reach out. And then I would say just what you said before. I would educate yourself. Don't wait for somebody to educate you. So if you really seems like something you're interested in, look into the different areas, look in the manufacturing side, look in the distribution side, and also look into the agent's rep side. And I think the more that you can know about any single industry and all the facets of it, that's what's going to make you excel and be indispensable to anybody that hires you.
Those are definitely great words for us to end on here. Well, Brenda, it's such a pleasure to speak with you and to get your insight on all this stuff. And thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.